think our audience was hoping that one of us died. Like in some like tragic blimp accident or something like that.
Blimp?
Yeah, like
a Hindenburg?
Like the Goodyear blimp just...
Took us out?
Yeah.
Just one or both?
One Hindenburg or both? There's only one. There's only one Goodyear blimp, I think. It'd be really funny if it'd have to
would I be Diamond or you would be Silk?
You're so... Okay, first of all, you piece of shit. First of all, we have to pour one out for a fellow tremendous duo in the podcasting world. Diamond and Silk. We no longer have Diamond. And now we're left with Silk. And, you know...
Everyone loves Silk.
Everyone loves Silk, folks, don't they?
Especially on their nether parts.
Oh my god, you're so sick.
Well, that's what I heard when he said that. Like, everyone loves Silk. Like he's a Silk salesman.
What are you, a Silk salesman? Oh, so I think Trump is speaking at the Diamond Memorial Service. And it's going to coincide with his first campaign rally announcement thing that he's doing in South Carolina with Henry McMaster, who's the governor, and Lindsey Graham, who's the first lady.
I'm gonna brush right over that.
Wow, just like usual. It's like we were never out of the saddle anymore. So anyway, we're back. A couple scheduling items. So we recorded up through December, and we had some... Actually, no, it was up through around Thanksgiving time.
Yeah, I was about to say, we didn't even...
Did we record it in December? No. Because, okay, so it was Thanksgiving, so we were gone, and then we came back.
Yeah, we recorded like the week before you guys left for your vacation.
Right.
And then the holidays happened, and then...
And then, yeah. And then
my trip happened.
Well, and you were gone also before the holidays, too. So, our fearless correspondent was able to get a ticket to Mar-a-Lago for the second annual... What's it called?
I don't think it was the second. It was the second one there. So
second Liberty Gala thing?
Spirit of Lincoln Gala.
Spirit of Lincoln.
So this is a gala that they have
every year.
they have had frequently.
But the second annual at Mar-a-Lago where someone gets an award. Because the first year it was Melania.
Right.
And she got...
Well, no, I think...
How does it work? Because I'm fascinated.
I could be wrong. No. I'm pretty sure this gala has happened every year for the past at least like 10 years, if not more.
Oh.
And it's just happened at a different venue. And every year someone gets honored with an award. Right. But this is just the second year in a row that it's happened at Mar-a-Lago. And there was... Well, I guess I can't say that, but... Yeah. Who knows where it'll be next year.
Okay. But this year, who got awarded again?
Tammy Bruce.
So Tammy Bruce, you know, huge lesbian. Big lesbian, folks.
Big clit energy.
Big clit energy. Got the award this year.
She's a lovely woman.
Yes. And that's,
very, very, very powerful speaker.
Yeah.
She gave a wonderful speech.
Well, I think if you have experience as a radio hostess? Cupcakes? I think if you have
You can't say hostess. That's gendered language.
I think if you have experience as a radio cupcake, then you... I guess by and large, it's easy for you to speak to a group of people. Like, you have a built-in cadence. You've been doing this for years, right? She's been doing this for years. Like,
yeah.
So she's a pro. Well, that's good.
She's an old pro.
That's what they call you. That's what they call you down at the docks.
I knew that was coming.
You can't step on say I knew that was coming as I'm saying the joke.
I can, and I did,
Gosh,
and I will.
This whole broadcast is just AIDS. Anyway, so holidays, then we came back, and we moved around our office again. It's been set up in the living room where we had the computer set up to the TV, but then we got one of those little Jeff Bezos sticks. So now we don't need a computer in there to watch stuff. So while you were gone, I set up the office here in the guest room with the computer and all that. And so now we just have to plug in the microphones, which, since no one heard the 20 minutes it took for me to get this set up, because GarageBand is just...
Oh, they heard it. They could hear me sighing from wherever they were.
I'm here trying to plug in the microphones because we were like, okay, today, fine, we will do it. We will record today. We have extra time. You don't have any calls for a while. I'm okay. Like, I have time to do this. Let's just get it done. We're both home. we go to set it up, and
We who, Paleface?
we and if anyone here has ever used GarageBand before with more than one device, it is the most nonsensical process because you have to go into something called Audio Midal setup. You have to plug in both microphones, and then you have to select it and create an aggregate device so it's recording audio from two microphones at once and not playing audio back through those microphones if you're listening or something like that, which is another weird setup that I haven't even just bothered with. Then go back into GarageBand and certify that it's not coming in through one microphone, it's coming in through an aggregate device, and that's it, and you have to reset it up as a whole new thing. It's the most bullshit, insane process, and for some reason, unless someone knows this who's listening right now, Colin, if you're recording from more than one microphone in the same location, not a Skype call or anything like that, can you save those settings in GarageBand so it recognizes when you plug the microphones in again, okay, here we go. It's the same as before. It's the same as the last 35 times we've done this.
So I don't have to watch him do the tap dance every fucking time that we set up these.
And every time I'm setting it up, I just hear him in the back like,
Are you finished? Are you done?
and just sitting there and just, exhaling and gurgling in the background like some kind of monster. So, we're here. It's set up.
Do I need to put you out of my misery?
It took us so long to set this up that he forgot the topics. You're like Ron Jeremy over here with your dementia. So here we are, and you don't even know what the fuck we're talking about.
No, I do.
Okay.
I do remember things
Well,
that we have to talk about.
Before we get to those, I want to talk about probably the only story that's mattered since we were last on here, because nothing really happens during the holidays. It's always just a bunch of dumb gay shit and McCarthy going through 18 different rounds of nomination and losing.
But he's a star!
Oh, God. But one thing I did want to chat about really quick is Avatar. I don't know if any of you have gone to see it. It's an independent movie. It's a small, local, low-budget movie. I went to go see it. Mitch saw it with his family. And then when Kyle and I were back in town, we thought, okay, we'll go see it in 3D, the whole goggles and all this stuff. And 20 minutes in, I was pretty violently nauseous. Then they did a zero gravity scene, and I was like counting the number of heads until I could get out of the theater and throw up in the popcorn trash can. And he leaned on me, he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "I'm not either. I feel kind of sick. Let's go." And so our first Avatar experience was ruined because we got really sick trying to watch it and all the effects, because it's all like forced perspective, so your brain is doing like a bunch of like figuring it out at the moment.
I imagine it moves pretty quickly.
It does. And you watched it in regular, right?
Yes,
in 2D.
I was not gonna.
Right.
I was not gonna deal with 3D, especially with my two younger nieces, who probably would have had the same reaction that you did.
Like, and at the theater,
I mean,
when
I would never have that reaction because I'm superhuman. But
I don't see you on roller coasters and stuff like that.
I'm actually really kidding because I get motion sickness way too easily. I get motion sickness in the back of your car.
Well, he sits there and you're like a dumb teenager. You're on your phone, and then 20 minutes in, you're like, I need to look down, I need to look up. And it's like, well, that happens.
No, that is not me. That is you.
How can I be in the backseat of my own car while I'm driving?
Okay.
If I had those skills, I'd be in porno movies.
In the backseat of Kyle's car when he's driving.
That's true. I get really sick.
You are always on the phone, and you go, I guess I shouldn't be on my phone. I'm not on the phone often in the car. Anyway, we've derailed this conversation. Anyway, back to
Avatar. Well, this is our Avatar. But back to Avatar. So we finally went to go watch it last night on 2-for-1 ticket Tuesdays at Regal. There were 8 people.
Non-sponsor.
No, they don't pay for this. And I have a feeling if they ever heard this, they would probably ban me from Regal. Because I've already gotten one refund for seeing it because I almost threw up. So we went back.
At least they were nice enough to give you a refund.
Well, they were, and the way that the guy said it sounds like this happens every single showing. At least like a half dozen people are like, fuck this, I can't do it. Especially older people like me. So...
Decrepit.
I said older, not decrepit. Not you. So, there's probably 8 people in the whole theater that saw it. One couple clapped after it ended, which I was good. I wanted. It was dark, so I couldn't really give them a dirty look. But if I could, I would. This movie was twice as long as any movie should be. for being what it was.
I would venture to say 3 times as long.
It's just it was 3 separate movies.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the runtime with like previews is like 3 hours.
3 and change, right?
3, like almost pushing 3:45 because I think the movie itself is like 3.5 hours.
That's a big ask.
Yeah, so cut it down to 1 hour, make it a special on television. We're all happy.
I don't know why it wasn't just a series to begin with, and something tells me as they're like struggling to break even now in the box office that the future 3, 4, and 5 movies. Something tells me that if something doesn't go as planned, they'll just chop it up into a series on Disney Plus or something. It felt like a Disney Plus series because there were sequences and things that happened where it was like, back on the island, back in the forest, back on Earth, and the whole point of it is supposed to be like a movie with pacing. It had series pacing, which made it really obnoxious to watch. There was one great sequence at the end that was like the battle sequence that everybody was waiting for, and I would have just preferred going in and watching the last 20 minutes. I think it would have been fine.
Well, no, but even that ending part was probably going on like 40 minutes.
Which ending? There were 3 endings.
Well, no, that battle part. So like they had the battle part, and you thought, okay, it's over, and then something else happened. Oh, we got to fight some more, and then it's now they're trapped. Well, I mean, I guess I'm giving a little bit away, but if you haven't seen it, screw yourself.
It's not like you're missing significant plot points by
Like they need to be saved at the end by something or someone,
right.
And that dragged on for another like 15 minutes. I'm like, are we done yet?
It was like sitting in a bad opera. Like how it's gonna end. Like you vaguely know how it's gonna end watching it, and you're just like at a certain point, like there's not even any good singing. So like just move it along. Now another 3-hour movie I saw, and I want to get to your next point, that is worth the time was Babylon. That's the only other movie I've seen in the past couple months since we last recorded. Unbelievable. Please go see it. It's like Wolf of Wall Street combined with Great Gatsby, but better. And based on real people and events that happened in the early 20s and 30s silent film era. I thought it was tremendous. The critics are not so thrilled, but then seeing that they gave Avatar like a 92% made me realize that the critics are retarded. And the fact that the public who went to go see it thought it was going to be like La La Land 2. And they're like, they use foul language in this movie. I brought my daughter with me. We can't watch this. Where are they singing and dancing? This was not that kind of movie. But it showing what Hollywood would become, like a preview into that, and then La La Land showing what Hollywood is now and the promise of what it used to hold, are really good bookends to the industry. So I enjoyed it. I think that other people, serious critics, I think, thought it was really good. And people were bored watching that. I was bored watching Avatar, and that had 10 times more, supposed action. So, also, one more thing. If you're taking your children to go see Avatar, which I don't know if anybody with children listens to us, and I feel bad if they do, because there's some child being neglected while we are babbling on in the background. But I would take my kids because it's a Disney-style movie, but they say, like, shit. They say shit 5 times in that movie. And completely unnecessarily.
I didn't catch that.
Oh, yeah, they had, like, 5 shits in that movie. Literally.
Like you.
Literally. And I'm thinking...
Had to change your diaper.
He did 5 times in that theater. It was horrible for everybody. Thank God there was only 8 people. No wonder they applauded. I was leaving. But there were 5 shits in that movie, and I'm like, those didn't need to be in there. And without that, it could have been a PG movie. Is it PG-13? I think it is.
Probably, yeah, I think it is.
Because
yeah, you're right, because my youngest niece was not 13, and I'm like, can we get her into this? She's like, she passes 13 all the time.
So it doesn't, yeah. I would not take young children to this because they said that, and I'm like, why? It didn't move the plot along. It could have been like, no, or darn, or something like that. But they said shit, and it was completely unnecessary. So I don't know if that was like a weird attempt to like interest adults. Pixar stuff is usually good about that, but for some reason this stuff was not. But anyway, that's just my thing. Take your kids to go see Babylon instead.
No,
there's just a couple more shits. If they're gonna hear shit, they might as well hear shit.
The one thing I wanted to the movie was okay. It was entertaining, but it was way too long and just like you wanted to shoot someone at the end. But I can see how some people were having issues with some of the messaging and it being a little bit left leaning, but it wasn't like in your face. It wasn't like, oh, you're all evil. it was
Right.
fine. Like, it was fine. But the one thing that I want to bring up is, like, the little tranny avatar.
Yes.
Because, I'm sorry, this entire movie, and again, you're going 3 hours, 3+ hours, thinking, oh, this little boy, and all of a sudden they said, did you find your sister? And I'm like, wait, what?
There's a sister.
There's a little trans avatar. I don't understand what's going on. Like, it sounds like a boy did the voice.
It acts like
It
one.
had short hair like a
Yeah.
little boy. Like, these creatures don't have, like, really defining features that would make you something
Right.
male or female.
You don't see an avatar with huge jugs.
Right, so it's like they styled it like a little boy, and then and clearly it was a boy who did the voice, right? Like, I'm not
I think
crazy.
so.
And then all of a sudden they just said, "Did you find your sister?" And I was just like,
What?
I literally, that was when the movie turned for me. I was like, is this the what's the word I'm looking for? Is this the what is the word I'm looking? Is this the twist? Is this the plot twist? That's
The
what
plot
I was-
twist is
yes.
that they're differently gendered avatars.
Yes. Or some non-binary avatar. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, before
It
we
was really bizarre.
that I didn't. Now that you mention it, it was kind of jarring because I did not know that was a young girl. It was just a young, non-gendered child.
Right.
Well,
And I just assumed it was a boy because it had a slightly deeper voice.
Well, and again, I know that you had a topic you wanted to get to more serious, but on the subject of the non-binary thing, real quick, we went into Nordstrom's beforehand because there was one right by the theater, and I was like, oh, it's their half-yearly sale, so we'll see what's on sale. They have a clearance rack there, and half of the clearance rack in the men's section were these non-binary sized overalls that had like silver lame on the back, but they were really ugly. And it was some Pride merch leftovers, that and a Protect Trans Lives shirt that were all on the clearance of the clearance rack, like double clearance, like please just get this out of our, inventory. Because not a single person bought those when they were on the rack. And the reason why is because I counted the number of sizes and stuff that they had available, just like roughly, and it was corresponding to the amount that would be if the item was on the rack and available in the store. So all of them were on clearance because no one wanted them. So, like Williams Sonoma that had the Pride plates and the Anthony cookbook that they couldn't get rid of for months. Like,
We checked every time we went in that store.
we did. H&M, I was there at the outlet, Pride shirts. Target, Pride shirts. Everywhere that sells Pride merchandise that's just a regular store is desperate to get rid of it. We're closer to Pride Month at this point of the year than we were from last year. At this point, just box it up and put it in the back, put it back out. No one's going to know the difference.
Right.
But they can't get rid of it. And it's so funny how they really misjudged the market. Oh, in the same way that all the Black History Month stuff at Target from last year, because you and I went there to go get supplies, and it was bleak.
Well, yeah, and I don't think it coincided with Black History Month, but the release of that Black Girl Magic wine or something like that.
Yes.
It's now on clearance. They're not selling that shit
It's on
anymore.
clearance everywhere. The Svedka Pride vodka on clearance. The Stoli Ukraine vodka clearance. Nobody wants this shit. Nobody signals that hard with their clothing or the products that they buy.
Especially the alcohol that they buy. Like, who's going in and like looking directly at your alcohol shelf or bar card or whatever?
Exactly. Like she didn't have the BLM rosé.
I'm out of here. Can't have drinks at our house.
Like, trust me, people of color drink the exact same things as everybody else.
Yeah, you're one of them.
I do. Give me some of that Hypnotic. Anyway.
So, yeah, I have been permanently banned from Twitter.
Yes, that's another thing. It was on the tip of my tongue that I was going to mention.
So I have no idea what's going on in the world.
Elon like blasted you from space, and it was
He
because
ripped off my wig.
It was because you threatened to kill somebody, and that person was me.
Yeah.
You got kicked off of Twitter because you made a joke about me and Kyle being taller than you, and you wanted to kill us for that.
To get no. Okay, to give some. This is a very bizarre thing to me. So to give some background to this, there was a New York Times piece. Someone was really, really, like, they needed to put out a piece. Like, New York Times was probably coming for their job, like, you haven't written anything, write something. like you do to Marshall.
Exactly. He still hasn't written anything.
Right. But someone wrote this piece. I didn't even find out who wrote it. I shame on me. But someone wrote this piece about how short people are better for the environment and better for the world because they use less resources and blah blah blah.
Like,
it was just the stupidest shit.
5 minutes before deadline bullshit.
Right. So someone put this out in New York Times, and it made headlines because it was like, what kind of stupid shit is this? Like, why are you putting this out?
Right.
And so I was making fun of it, and I, of course, dumb me, I didn't link the article because I didn't want to give them more clicks, but I didn't link the article. And so I said, oh, apparently tall people use too many resources. My roommates, Wyatt and Kyle, are extremely tall. Maybe I should kill them to save the planet. Like, that was my tweet. That was it. They both liked it. They both commented on it. They thought it was, kind of stupid and funny. I got a bunch of other people saying, ha ha ha, yeah, you're right.
But it wasn't even like something that you wrote that went viral.
Right. It didn't go viral. I didn't get that many likes or retweets or anything.
Just a normal tweet.
And then 2 weeks later, 2 weeks after I made that tweet, they're like, you're permanently suspended for this tweet because it's threatening or something like that. And I'm like, I have literally seen people tweet, I will fucking kill you, and they're still on the platform, and I get permanently banned.
The person you were supposedly threatening responded with a joke to the tweet.
Right. So I appealed it twice, and they're like, no, you threatened someone, and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't think that Elon's new plan has really implemented itself because it seems really stupid.
Well, apparently in the next week or so, they're supposed to put out, if you're on Instagram and you go deep into your settings, you can see something called account status. So it shows you, like, you posted this story on this day, someone reported it, and we, reviewed it, and we found it was a strike against you or something. I have 2 of those because one time I posted a picture of a meme of a woman who fell over and peed herself.
Oh.
And they flagged it as being sexual content. And then I appealed and I won because it was a joke. Then I posted an image, a meme, of these, it was like a hotel room and people were sitting there, and then there was very distantly on the TV you could see that there was porn, but there was no nudity shown. It was just like a porn screen cap where you couldn't see boobs or bobber vagine or anything like that, but it was obviously like a joke. That got flagged for sexual content and nudity. Then I posted a picture of some prescription eye drops that I had, and I said, hey, I got these from the pharmacy. These really helped my eye redness or whatever I had. Like I had like a little eye infection. And then I got and I got a coupon for them, so it was $15 off, and I got flagged for selling pharmaceuticals on my story. So I've had 3 strikes on Instagram, and they basically told me I'm on thin ice. There was another one?
Yeah, didn't you get flagged for your quote unquote doctored picture of Barbara Ferrer? Is that her name?
Yes, but okay, that's another thing. On their COVID misinformation thing, I got flagged 3 times because I posted a picture of Dr. Barbara Ferrer from Deadline, Hollywood. That was a real picture of her looking like hell, but then it got reported as misinformation because it said, this image is altered. She doesn't look this bad. And she does. She looks worse. She looks worse. It was a real photo of her. It was charitable. And so I got hit 3 times for that. But for some reason, it doesn't show up on my Instagram status thing because I think they lifted a lot of those COVID strikes on people but didn't tell anyone. Because somebody would be like, hey, I took the vaccine today. And they'd be like, here's vaccine misinformation. Like, someone's like, no, I literally got the shot at CVS today. And they flagged that for saying the word shot. So that's been kind of chucked aside. But I'm running on thin ice according to Instagram. Twitter doesn't have a system like this. So a lot of people lost accounts for no fucking reason. And as we found out from these Twitter files disclosures going all the way up to President Trump, it basically came down to a room of like 2 ugly women and a faggot deciding, well, kick him off, or well, what can we do? What can we make up so that we can kick him off? Like literally, these were the back and forth that they were having. So a lot of people don't know their status. Now, this week apparently, Elon is going to roll out the feature so you can see your account status. You can see if you're being shadow banned or throttled, or you can't use certain trending hashtags or tag certain people. So maybe there's going to be some kind of, relief on the horizon, but you're in bad shit.
Well,
on Twitter.
I was wondering why. I was under the impression that they stopped the permanent bans completely, but apparently not.
I think they kept them, but they apparently really went back on them. But you're not the only one. Like, there's about a half dozen people who I have either know of or like second degree followers that the same thing has happened to them. So I don't know.
But I want to know if it'll ever be reversed, because I would love to get that content back, but I will. Your Crowder information.
So I'm waiting to hear more information on this, but Steven Crowder, who, all of you know, some of you love, is no longer with the Blaze and put out a message basically saying, hey, follow us on Mug Club, we'll be back in a couple weeks, or I'll explain very soon. So, a lot of people canceled their Blaze subscriptions because who the fuck else are you listening to on the Blaze? Like, it's the most mid-platform of conservative stuff, like, you could possibly have. Well, just tune into your local FM radio station or AM radio station. They're so much better. So it's pointless. So Blaze lost a lot of money and a lot of subscribers, but Crowder put out a video today. I haven't watched the whole thing. I watched a clip of it. But basically alluding to something that he said, these people are not really conservative. Not mentioning the Blaze or anyone in particular, but he said, I encountered some people who tried to make an offer to have me on board, and some of the people I've been working with, and he said I called them Con Inc., emphasis on the con, and he didn't quite get into the details of what actually happened, but he basically slapped conservative media upside the head, saying that they make more money in just being in opposition or anything like that than the mainstream media does, and that they have colluded with big tech to throttle people in certain voices. Now, I've said for years how it was very obvious that Ben Shapiro and some of his allies did in Milo, who had made a joke on a podcast months before about when he was in Catholic school and the priests were, going after kids. He made a joke at his own expense and got called a pedophile and kicked off. I thought that was wildly appropriate, but wildly inappropriate. Excuse me, that would be the way he would be treated for making a joke about his own sexual abuse, which a survivor should absolutely be allowed to make. And so it basically came down to they're looking for any way to kick him off possible. And it sounded similar to this kind of Crowder thing. They were kind of looking for any excuse to kind of bump him off and move it along. So, once again, the right can't have anything nice. The gays can't have anything nice either. That's another story for another day. But it remains to be seen what happens. I mean, he has been at this and on this way longer than just about anybody else. He was one of the first YouTubers on the right. He did these funny little video clips. He did skits. Like, this is somebody who's been doing it a long time, and a lot of these newer personalities, I think, wish that they had the audience that he did, and maybe might be more apt to kind of, bump him off. It's shitty, but I don't know. It is what it is. Maybe the same people did you in.
I'll never know.
Well.
Was there anything political you wanted to bring up?
Everything.
There's been so much since we last recorded. I mean,
there's been so much, but nothing substantive. Like, since we last recorded, they started the Twitter files drops. When we were last recording, it was the Kanye stuff. He's been very quiet in the past couple months. Since the whole Alex Jones thing. The invitation is still open for him to come on the podcast. Of course. But I don't... This is the worst part of the year because nothing substantive actually happens that's at least in the forefront. Trump has not done a campaign event since he announced last time that we talked. There was a leadership fight, like, for McCarthy in Washington that, okay, he won, big fucking whoop. So it's just been a lot of just backbiting on Twitter.
Well, I don't know, that was a big
George
deal.
Santos, I don't care about him.
Oh, okay, well, I can bring him up in just a minute.
Yeah.
But
that's the only thing I can think of, but I don't know what the there is.
Right. So with the speaker thing, yes, it was history making, and it is what it is. But that's how that's how the process works. Like, I don't understand why you would get mad at people who were actually trying to use the system that was made a certain way for a reason to try and get something that they feel passionate about.
Right.
I mean, and then to demonize them, and whether it's true or not, it's politics.
Well, if you don't have the votes, you don't have the votes.
Right, but Fox News, of all people, were slamming, Boebert and Gates and everyone who was holding out, saying, oh, well, they're just doing this because they want something out of it. They're doing it for their own careers. And whether that's true or not, it very well might be true. But again, it's politics. That's how this shit works. But the fact of the matter is they were using the system as it was built. They weren't breaking any rules. They weren't doing anything wrong. And they're being demonized and vilified for it. And I just don't see a problem with it. I don't.
Right, yeah, I went late into the night one day, but I think it was good for people to see Congress at work. They have to go through and pick a speaker. The speaker can be anybody. It doesn't have to be a member. If you don't have the votes, you don't have the votes. Just keep going for it.
And which, by the way, if it were just for, personal gain reasons, okay, I can see why you might vilify that. But if it's, they're trying to get something out of it, and they don't like the guy and think that he'd be a bad speaker, which is the truth, that's how they actually felt, then it's the process at work. I don't understand why people were in such an uproar about it, because also it's not like they were holding up a lot of things, because you're not going to get a lot done with a Senate in the other side. We're not going to get anything done in the next 2 years anyway. We might start some investigations. That's about it.
Ooh, investigations. Wow.
Yeah,
It'll be Benghazi too.
You might, call Fauci to testify about something again, and
what if
he'll
he
get away.
He'll
get away with it.
What if he just says no? I'm not coming. Big deal. Subpoenas.
So yeah, I don't think it was a big deal. I don't know why they were making it such a big deal. I don't know why Fox News and Newt Gingrich were just tearing into these people. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what their deal was.
Well, the size of the government has only increased since Newt Gingrich was speaker, and
well, apparently he put in those rules that has led to someone like Pelosi having so much power for so long.
Right.
And he put in those rules about making it a higher threshold to recall a speaker, or to put a vote of no confidence or whatever they call it. So they've now taken that power back and taken it down back to what it was originally almost.
Right.
So they're being demonized for things that are how the government was set up to begin with. So I don't.
The best thing that Newt Gingrich did was contract with America and winning the speakership, and everything he has done since then has been completely and utterly irrelevant. He has not passed any legislation. He has not advocated for anything successful. He teamed up with a climate change nonsense with Nancy Pelosi. He ran for president and failed. He was going to run again and failed. And now he's just a paid pundit. He has done nothing. He got his wife the ambassadorship to the Vatican. Big fucking whoop. So in 25 years, nothing. And every prediction he makes is wrong.
And one other political thing I wanted to bring up, I'm sorry.
And yet he's still smarter than Kevin McCarthy.
Oh, gosh.
But yes.
The big spending bill that they rammed through, we won't get into that. There's a bunch of crap in there, which I wrote about if you want to read about it. But the biggest part of that news was that part of that bill was the electoral. I'm going to get the words wrong now. The Electoral Count Reform Act, or whatever it's called.
Right.
Reforming the whole thing, where they have now stipulated a higher threshold to object to some electorates and vote counts. And then also stipulating that the vice president is only a ministerial position in that vote count and cannot actively reject things on his or her own.
Which I don't think is correct. I mean, constitutionally, I think it'd be interesting to see it go to a court or something like that, but as I had understood in 2020, and as I understand now, it's what would be I want to do the counterfactual though. what would be the purpose in having the vice president be just a counter of votes? What's the point if there can't be some second level of scrutiny that's there? Also, counter to that, why would this person be the counter of the votes if technically they're one of the votes that's under consideration?
Right.
So if they're on the ticket and they're counting votes for their own ticket, maybe it is in their interest to count votes for their ticket that aren't there, or otherwise.
Right.
So that's a weird sort of question mark that's in there.
It should be one of the legislators, excuse me.
Make it Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
So that's a very weird.
Yes, no, I agree with that. But the weird thing is the historical background of all of this, and I've done some reading about it. I mean, obviously, the original act was not in the Constitution. They had to add it as a law, a piece of legislation later.
Look up something really quick.
But from what I understand, it was hastily written with lots of vague areas that have just never came into question until 2020, because we all just took it for what it was and we took it at face value. But as someone pointed out, one of the sentences in that original legislation is like almost a page long. Like, it's one sentence, it's like a page long. Who would ever? Like, that's some undercover legal shit you would think a legislator of today would pull, not, well, I mean, I guess they were crooked back then too, but you know what I'm saying? Like, who would write a bill that has a sentence that's one page long? It's rife for misinterpretation.
Well, and the reason why is because in the 1876 election, I wanted to make sure I was right on this, where it was Hayes versus Tilden.
Rutherford?
It, I believe, ended in a tie electorally. Tilden had more of the popular vote, and Hayes ended up winning. And it went back and forth in Congress again and again and again and again, and finally to justices and a bunch of nonsense that happened in there, but that's just by design. There was also a lot of hijinks at the voting level. For example, South Carolina vote totals were 101% of the available voters. So obviously, there was a little bit of nonsense going on there. They've had electoral fraud since the beginning.
Right.
So anyone who thinks that that's just something either we A, don't have anymore, or B, never happened, is full of shit.
Yeah. Well, but then to play devil's advocate, because I agree with you about this, but to play devil's advocate, the people like David French would push back and say, but it's not substantive. It's not enough to sway votes one way or the other.
Well, and that's where it
or
comes...
to sway the decision of an election one way or the other.
Right, and then that's where it comes down to, information suppression before the election, I think, is very difficult to quantify. I think it's hard to translate that into actual votes and voters, like the Hunter Biden story and stuff like that. Which is why it comes down to, like, something like a 2,000 Mules, or, like, is there footage of ballots being stuff? Like, what is the process and everything like that? Which, again, would be a lot less of an issue if there was voter ID and same-day voting, and you have to get some kind of special certification to get a mail-in ballot. Otherwise you will always, always, always have a question mark, have an asterisk at every election going forward until that's figured out. And we may end up having 2-3 more electoral cycles before they finally decide, okay, this is how we do it. It's going to take, and by the way, these states that have Republican legislatures, get off your ass and get this figured out, because if you don't, at the state level, then there's no chance for voter ID at the federal. They will never let it pass.
True.
But you had another subject you wanted to lean into, I thought. Or maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm wrong.
I had one thing to wrap this up.
Oh, yeah.
As a preview of something coming. I haven't cleared this with you yet, but you're going to be fine with it.
Oh, God.
No, it's going to be good. It's going to be fun. Because I was told by one of our listeners who has missed us.
Colin.
I won't name him.
Colin.
You
said listener who missed us. That Venn diagram is one individual. We have
Maybe
a few
two.
other listeners. None of them missed us.
Maybe 2.
I had
Anyway.
one person message me who's a listener who, this is a shout out to Heath, who said, "Did you guys just give up on it or what? You haven't put out an episode anytime lately."
Who was this?
One of my followers, Heath, who listens to our podcast, he's like, "I have a long drive coming soon and I need something to listen to. Can you get off your ass and please record some?"
Wow.
So we have an aggressive listener, too.
Okay, well...
Aggressive bottom listener.
Oh my. One of our esteemed listeners has informed me that he and someone that he knows whom he gave the podcast to enjoys our pop culture, riffs about things that we watch and or experience.
Right.
So, namely, what he was talking about was like the Judy Justice thing and like ripping into that. Like that was apparently a lot of fun to listen to. So I thought we're gonna watch it anyway. Right. We need to have on our next episode some kind of recap or response to Nancy Grace's Fox Nation series about Britney Spears and her conservatorship.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Nancy Grace going to the Idaho killer's house.
No.
That killer should fry.
No.
She literally popped up in front of the murder house and recorded a podcast, which is so unhinged.
I love her so much, and she made a show for the gays about Britney Spears and her conservatorship, and the
Jamie Spears, you should fry.
Death to all of them.
Literally.
She about all the legal stuff, behind it, and getting into the nitty gritty. So I would like to watch it because I don't know how that legal stuff works. I don't know about conservatorship.
And on that note, apparently this week Britney got into an argument at a restaurant or something and then left. Apparently people were taking pictures of her and the restaurant wasn't doing anything. If you see her in public, leave her alone. This poor woman's obviously been through enough, number one. And number two, what?
You sound like that guy. What was his name? Chris
Crocker?
Yeah, who now does porn. Yeah.
Or something, yeah.
Leave Britney alone!
But okay. First of all, if you see her in public, don't, run up and take pictures of her just eating with her family. Second of all, can they get her some therapy, like some real therapy, not that bullshit therapy where it's like some trainer that, puts people in the 5150s? Third of all, the Leave Britney Alone thing had one of the most iconic things when he did an interview, and I don't know if it was on Dr. Phil or one of those shows, he was like, "Before I'm an American, I'm a Britney fan." And that should be our national. I mean, they should put that on the Statue of Liberty. Fuck the Emma Lazarus gay-ass poem. Put that there. Before you're an American, you were a Britney fan. I would love to see
the gays.
That. I would love to see. Well, do we need more gays? Yeah.
No, we don't. We have too many. We need to thin the herd.
Can you imagine if they only let in gay refugees? So you see the Coyotes giving some crappy Aldo heels and tight dresses to these poor people trying to cross the border. And you see him walk in someone walk in with no English, is like, "Yes, queen," and they're like, "Okay, fine, you can come in. Give me you're tired, you're poor, you're gaping holes yearning to breathe free." Well, on that Charles Nelson Riley note, you're out of topics. I'm out of topics.
I'm out of steam.
And you gotta record something else later, don't you?
No, we're not recording. Oh. We're just talking. But on that note, have a great day and go fuck yourselves.
Oh, I missed that. Oh, my back.
Oh, I'm leaving that in.